All right. Well, welcome to Going the Distance, the Rocky Series podcast. I am very excited today to talk to Mr. Eric Engels. This is our first time meeting in person, face to face. We've talked a little bit offline or off camera. And before we get into you, I just want to share how you actually. Do you want to share how you stumbled upon me, or how I stumbled upon you?
I stumbled upon you in the most ridiculous way imaginable, which was that I was on YouTube and I've seen some song reviews by different people. This has become like a thing, like first reactions to listens, and I saw that Ryan has this channel where he does reaction videos to music that he's never heard before. And I'm a huge fan of the band Fish, and saw that. So it just popped into my algorithm that this guy was doing a review on a Fish song. And so I clicked the video, and in the background, I see a Canadiens logo, and I'm a reporter on the Montreal Canadiens. So it's like the algorithm has got me in two different places. And as I start to look into who Ryan is and who this person is, it turns out he has a podcast about Rocky Balboa. So and my whole, I would not be a sports reporter if the Rocky movies had never existed. It was like the first big movie that I watched. Rocky IV was the first big movie that I watched with my family. So I didn't watch them in order. But ever since, it's like I've watched every Rocky movie inside out, except for 5 and I guess what we would call Rocky Balboa, but I refer to as 6. I haven't watched those ones. I've watched 5 enough to know pretty much every line in it, but 6 I watched once or twice, and that was enough for me.
All right. Well, we've a lot to unpack there. A lot to unpack. So
a lot to unpack. I have many huge Rocky takes, and I have music takes. So
great.
That's why I got in touch with Ryan too.
Yeah. So this is kind of like a bonus episode in the sense, like for the Rocky podcast feed in general, we just every interview and every episode is specifically talking about the film, of certain parts of the film. We've done 7 seasons. That's the first 7 films in the Rocky series up to Creed Part 1. We're about to do season 8, which is Creed Part 2. So this is perfect timing because right now we're on a little bit of a break before we start season 8. So this is going to be like a bonus episode. And I do have a lot of questions for you myself regarding a few different things. So because I'm going to plug you in the Habs Twitterverse. So if you're a Habs fan, you might have come to the right place because I'm sure Eric will have something to say about the Habs. If you're a Rocky fan, you come to the right place because I'm sure Eric has something to say about Rocky. And if you're a music fan of the bands we're about to talk about, I'm sure you come to the right place. So there's a few things going on in this interview, so I'll try to keep everything chunked together accordingly. So
the schedule is loose. I could talk about anything right now.
Okay. Well, what I mean is if people want to skip, they're talking about the band. So, I'm going to skip till they talk about the Habs. Or they're talking about the Habs. I'm going to skip until they're talking about.
We're in that low attention span world that we live in.
It's insane. I know it's insane. If we haven't already grabbed their attention, they've already left the podcast, which is the story of our life, or story of my life, anyways. So I think it's really amazing. So yeah, Eric sent me a message and how it's just funny. He's like, "You're a Rocky fan." And was it Fish? Was that who you're listening to? Was that the
video that I caught that hit my algorithm was a Fish video, a video breaking down a Fish song.
Yeah, so he goes, you have a reaction channel, and you're a Habs fan, and you're a Rocky fan. It's kind of funny all those things you are as well, which is really kind of cool. So let's first talk about. I guess we'll go in age order. So let's do Rocky first because. You just mentioned, I didn't know this. This is really interesting. You got into your field, your career because of the Rocky films. Why don't you explain that a little bit further?
What I mean by that is like the Rocky story is, I think, what we hold most dear about sports, right? It's the idea that someone is doing something that seems so impossible at such a high level is at the foundation of what compels us to watch. I think we're fascinated by people who get to the very top and manage to stay there and manage to do it with all the pressure and the bright lights, but particularly the underdog, right? Like the person that everyone would bet against that proves everyone wrong. And so, that is the main draw in terms of sport. I obviously grew up playing team sports and enjoying, as a Montreal guy, playing hockey and holding true to those kind of ideals. But as a reporter, the idea to one of the most satisfying things as a reporter is undoing perception. You know, when people believe that a player is this or that, or they say a player is not a good skater or not fit to be a good producer, and they're wrong. You know, like there's parts of it, or that the statistics don't show this player to be particularly good. They're not particularly flattering, but there's different elements of their game that should be highlighted and prove the value of why they're employed by the team that employs them. That's kind of breaking down the minutia of it, but at the very foundation of that is a Rocky Balboa type of story. It is, let me tell you about this person that you are judging, that you don't really understand what they're about and why they are who they are and why they have been elevated to the status they have. So I kind of love that, you know, like that to me is one of the most fun things about being a reporter with any kind of influence is you can change people's mind about how they view something because they're staring at it on the surface instead of in 3-dimension.
Okay, I got most of that. I got it. I had about 5 different questions. Like, I want to ask that. I want to ask that. As a reporter, is it your job to change my mind? Do you have a bias? That's my question. Do you have a bias when you report? I know you're human. I know maybe you're not supposed to, but does it come out sometimes?
No, I mean, a bias.
Meaning, okay, I just saw that you did an article today on the Habs and on the coach, or sorry, on Bergevin and his where he's at right now. And when you're writing that, where do your personal feelings come in, or do they come in at all?
No, they don't come in. But what I do try to do is not just treat people as though they're the subjects of my stories. I try to treat them like they're people.
Okay.
I do consider the human element in everything, and I try to view everything from everyone else's perspective in order to inform mine properly. I don't cheer for the Montreal Canadiens. I don't cheer for any team. I do cheer for people. There are people that, when I hear a story about Nate Thompson, who played for the Canadiens, who fought through incredible adversity to be where he is, who went through an addiction problem and overcame it and went to rehab and has opened up and been honest about that and appreciates where he is in life and appreciates his opportunity to play a job as a fourth line player. And I see the value that he brings outside of the ice to the organization, to the different people. It offers me the opportunity to tell that story, to tell the story that if you didn't know anything about Nate Thompson and you just watched him play his role as a fourth line player and you said to yourself, well, why is he playing instead of this 20-year-old kid who's coming up, then you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know why he's playing. He's playing because he's a leader. He's playing because he's teaching kids on the roster what to do. He's playing also because his play merits him being where he is. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not actively trying to undo perceptions just because I want to tell a story that's fictional. It's like I'm trying to, and I'm not always trying to undo perspective. It's just sometimes it is the benefit of the role I'm in is that, like, when a common idea starts kind of festering out there that I know is somewhat false or lacking in a certain objectivity, it's an opportunity for me to say, hey, have you thought about it this way? And when I see that the people that were so dead set that it's this way, and then they read what I write and they say, oh, I didn't think about it that way. I didn't realize that I'm actually missing. I was missing part of the information. That's some of the fun part of the job. And then the other side of it, in terms of like when you're asking me about like bias, I am drawn to a story about someone who is defeating the odds. I am always drawn to that story. I'm drawn to many stories as a journalist and want to tell all of them. But I'm always drawn to the one where it's like no one believes in this person, and they just give the whole world the middle finger. Like I think that's at the foundation of why we like sports. Like that's what draws everybody in, like if you have Tom Brady and the Patriots in their heyday playing against a Buffalo Bills team that's lost 4 Super Bowls in a row, who are you cheering for? Pretty sure it's the Bills.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean.
No, and bias. I also meant, where does your human part come in? Because the ideal part of a reporter, I've always wondered is, or I thought it would be, is they're just saying, this is the situation, this is what's happening, this is the information that I've gathered, and I'm now reporting the facts. I hate to say it just like that, but in today's news climate, I'm sure you could understand this, that those who aren't in the business, such as myself, we get conflicting, like, what's clickbait, what's real, what's the person just, because it's ad money, right? At the end of the day, you're still in the business of making money. Every company is. And so have you ever turned down something where you morally were like, no, I'm not going to report that because it's not true, or it's just something you're not comfortable with?
Yes, for sure. I don't want to cite specific examples because
fair enough,
I've agreed to not write about them. But there's always someone who's trying to get your ear, and they have agendas that they push, and you have to keep your eyes and your ears open as to why they're contacting you and the information. I always do the job objectively and try to get to the bottom. And if I feel there's a story that's worth pursuing and getting to the bottom of and finding the information, I'll go about it. And if for whatever reason, I don't feel it's worth pursuing because I can tell quite obviously what the angle is.
Sure.
The other thing, like when you say clickbait, like
headlines,
I have never once, ever in 14 years written something because I thought it would be a popular opinion. Like never.
Hey, so it's like my podcast. I've never done an episode that I thought would be popular.
Yeah, and my editors have never asked me to do that either.
That's good. Well, it sounds like you work for. Well, we should say who do you work for? We should have started with that.
I work for Rogers Sportsnet, and I'll tell you something else. I, as the writer, do not write my own headlines, but I am allowed to suggest them. Oh, and sometimes when I write on a certain subject, I ask that they be careful about rewording the headline, that I do not want to sensationalize it beyond what I'm saying, because also I'm working a beat and I'm managing relationships, and I'm trying to make sure that what I say is not misconstrued in the headline, because getting back to what we were talking about kind of low attention spans, people nowadays, it's pretty hard to get them to actually read past the headline. And I get a lot of people who, the minute an article is tweeted out with my name, with my byline and a headline on it, I see a response immediately without anybody having read what the article is. So, and you'll see in the background of my profile, Twitter at one point, in their algorithm, instead of when you clicked on an article to hit retweet, they actually said, do you want to read this first? They've like prompted you with a message. Do you want to read this first? Oh. So I've put that as my background picture. Like, there's more to this article than just the headline. So don't react before you've actually read it.
So you work for Rogers Sportsnet. How did you get into that line of work?
Good question. I got into the media. I have a very bizarre route to the media. Like I was a political science major who was quite directionless in terms of what I was going to do for a living. But my entire life, whether it was my parents or friends or anyone who I'd watched the hockey game with, they were like, you should do this for a living. Like, you always say what the broadcaster's going to say like 30 seconds before they say it. I have a really deep knowledge of hockey, not in a way of being conceited, but if you put me in a room of 1,000 people, chances are there's not going to be another one who knows more about it than I do. But that's my living and that's my expertise. And that's how I kind of raised my way there. So long story short, without experience and without a degree in journalism, I started looking for where the holes were and started looking for who I could approach that would give me an opportunity to start. And I said, I went to Sirius XM radio at the time, and I said, I was writing a blog. I at first started with a blog that was kind of gaining some popularity pretty quickly. And then I went to Sirius XM radio and said, you guys don't have a reporter in Montreal. I could go there. I could pick up some sound for you, and I could come on the air and do some analysis. And, you wouldn't even have to pay me. Just give me a press credential. Like, I can't get a press credential from this independent website I'm writing for. So, just give me a chance to come to do this for you, and I'll reward you. And they were kind of like, well, you don't have any experience. You've never been in that environment before, and you don't have a journalism degree, so it's a pass for us. But then I went down to Toronto and I met with them. I kind of cold went into their offices and said, you might be making a mistake turning away from me. Like, I'm going to do this for you. And they said, okay, we'll give you a chance. And if you screw it up, you're probably not going to get another one with someone else. So do a good job. And I did, and I leveraged that into several other opportunities. And I worked full time in marketing and sales for about 8 years, doing 5 other freelance kind of jobs. And then Sportsnet acquired the rights to NHL hockey, and I pitched myself in much the same way to them and said, you guys spend a lot of money on hockey and you don't have someone in Montreal. And I've been working around the Canadiens for the last 8 years, and I built the relationships, and I'm fully bilingual, and I've written and done radio and print and television, and I'm your guy. And I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything for about 6 months, but then I did, and they said, we've been vetting your work, and you do a great job, and we want to hire you. And that's when I left behind all the other stuff. So that's 6 years ago now. So
nice, good for you. I like that. Good success story. Well, obviously hard work and tenaciousness, kind of like the Sly story about getting that script for Rocky, the first Rocky out there. Keep bugging them till they get what you want, or not just what you want. I shouldn't say like that, but to what you believe that you can do and deserve. That's, I think, a very healthy combination of faith in your own abilities. And sometimes it's through no fault of our own. We don't know what your ability. I don't know who you are. And so it's hard for people to sometimes take that leap of faith because they don't know you from Adam, but they can see that drive in you and stuff. And that's cool. That's really cool. Now,
yeah, not to piggyback on what you were saying.
Sure.
I have a lot of people that reach out to me every year now, students, whether they're 20, 25, whatever it is, coming out of college. And, they're always concerned about their CV and what it says. And I like
CV, sorry.
Your
What's that?
CV, your resume.
Oh, okay.
Your resume is to get you a job interview.
Okay.
Once you get in there, it's all about what you believe about yourself. If you truly believe in yourself and you believe you're good and you believe you can do something, then you can sell it to somebody else. You can actually be believable in telling them, take a chance on me. If you don't really believe in yourself and you're just hoping, no one's really going to take a chance on you because
True.
They can sense that. So that's kind of where it starts, right?
No, I agree. That's awesome. Well, since we're kind of talking about your job, we might as well just segue. We sort of started with Rocky, but we'll get back to it. We're already in the weeds with your job and the Habs. Before you became, we had this conversation before we came on camera where I asked you, are you a Habs fan? And you told me, like, you're not, or you can't be. And I had actually legitimately had a hard time trying to wrap my head around. Here's the thing. If you made me a reporter, let's say you snapped my fingers, and all of a sudden I had the brain of a reporter and I had the ability to be a reporter, an investigative journalist, whatever it is, and I was in your position with my fandom of the Habs, I don't know if I could get rid of it. Like, I don't know if I can. On the surface, I could lie and say, oh, I'm not a Habs fan. I'm not saying I'm a good liar, but I could do it if I got paid to say that I'm not a Habs fan, but maybe secretly in my own room when I'm watching the highlights, I'm cheering that they won. So you're telling me that you do not cheer for the Habs. You don't cheer
Correct.
For any team.
Correct. And it's not as hard as you think. And I don't hide from the fact that I grew up in the town of Mount Royal in Montreal and grew up a huge Canadiens fan. And if I wasn't a Canadiens fan, I wouldn't have pursued being a hockey reporter, specifically in this market. But once you get up there and in there, the job's to tell stories. And to be honest with you, I want the best story possible, win or loss. I don't care if the Canadiens win. I don't care if they lose. personally, I would prefer if it's not 10 wins in a row or 10 losses in a row, because the story becomes monotonous.
Sure.
I'm cheering for chaos. Like, I want to see the craziest possible outcome. So, I'm never cheering for anybody to get hurt. That's for sure.
Of course. I know what you're saying, though. But there's a story to tell. I mean, even as a fan, I wouldn't want my team to win 20 cups in a row. It gets boring. It would get boring. There's no drama in that.
And even when I say that I don't cheer for teams, I cheer for people, it doesn't prevent me from, if Nate Thompson, who, as I explained before, that's the kind of guy that I would cheer for. If he played a shit game, I would be the first one to write about the fact that he did not perform well enough. Like, I think it's normal to have a human interest element. If you're a journalist, you care about people. Like, you care about stories, you care about people. And you're paid to share your opinion on things if you're a columnist like I am. And what comes with that is you have to be extremely objective. You have to look at things from both sides of the issue. You have to look at every dimension. And empathy is the key to everything. Like, you can have some reporters that are great reporters. They're great at getting the news and the information. You can have some people that are phenomenal writers. Michael Farber, for me, who wrote for Sports Illustrated for years and has worked with TSN, is like the greatest hockey writer in the history of hockey. And, there's people like Pierre LeBrun and Elliot Friedman who are at the very top of the chain in terms of being great reporters. And Elliot's kind of a good mix of Pierre and Michael. He's a great writer and he's also a great reporter, and Pierre is a great reporter. Like, he somehow gets people to say things to him that they wouldn't say to anybody else. But the common thread between those three types of people is empathy. And I don't just mean empathy in terms of like, you care about other people, or you think about, like, you think about things from their shoes. You put yourself in their shoes and try to process. When it comes to a big subject or a big decision, you have to look at it from their angle, from the player's angle, from the coach's angle, from your own opinion, and that's how you do the job the best way. Like, that's how that seems to be the common thread that unites the best people in our business. And, sports still operates like news does. Like, journalists are journalists.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Right.
We don't have as much at stake. No one's going to shoot me for writing about Carey Price struggling.
Okay. So let's segue.
Someone might, actually.
What's that?
Someone might.
Yeah. Okay. So you're a Habs insider. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'm a Canadiens insider and senior columnist at Rocky.
Okay. What's going on with the team right now? Is this coaching change a positive thing? Is it going to help the team? Was Claude the problem? Talk to me.
We're going to find out.
Oh, that's not good enough. What's your feeling? Okay, was Claude the problem? Oh, so you don't know. Or what's your feeling?
Was Claude the problem? Yeah. No. I mean, Claude, no, yes. Claude is an excellent coach who has blind spots like any other coach.
Sure.
And the idea that he was fired because they needed to change a voice and change a direction after losing 6 of 8 games, after last year's situation where they had 2 8-game losing streaks and another 5-gamer, and the same ugly trends had emerged, and it just seemed like they can't seem to turn it around when they go down this spiral quick enough. Those are all warning signs. And when the expectations are what they are, which they were huge this season, Marc Bergevin had a great offseason. Everyone acknowledged that, whether they were a Canadiens fan or a Bruins fan or a reporter or, someone on the surface. He spent a lot of money bringing in the players that he brought in, a lot of Jeff Molson's money. And it wasn't just that he brought in players to bring in players. Like, they actually fit specifically the holes that the team had. So I think everybody, not just the Canadiens themselves, had high expectations for what this team could be. And when you see that cratering, you have to act. And he did. And so, was Claude the problem? No. Was he the solution? Not necessarily. And As far as Ducharme is concerned, it's a really short sample. He's lost 2 games and won 1. I am around for the practices, at least while they're here right now. I'm not traveling very much with the COVID situation that we're in. It's not enough value in it in terms of what our access is to the players, because for people who don't know, we're only doing media availability through Zoom right now, which is pretty tough. But my impressions of Dominic Ducharme so far are that he fits the exact description that Marc Bergevin gave upon hiring him, which is that he's a modern coach in terms of his communication style. He's very on top of his players and very much personalizing his communication with them. He has tweaked a number of things in terms of the systems and the way they want to play to exploit the speed of the roster and the greatest strength that they have, which is speed, smarts, and the fact that they work really hard. There's certain elements of what he's doing from a technical standpoint that I think could bear fruit, but I can't tell you if he's the answer until he provides the answer.
It was a broad question, I guess. I should have. Unlike you, I'm not a reporter. I probably should have asked a more pointed question. Will his? You answered it, so I don't have to repeat the question in a better way. So thank you. Okay, well, you're too kind. This is me being naive because I did play sports, but very basic. I played rugby from grade 7 to 12. Never played anything outside of that, really. So I was a rugby player. I can't even ice skate. I know. I love the game of hockey. I've been watching it since 84 when I was 8 years old. I saw the Cup in 86. I was 17 when they won it in 93. So I remember it very vividly. I was by myself. Nobody in my family watched it. This is for my listeners. I think I told you the story, but really quickly, when Patrick Wall held up the cup, I cried. I was 17 years old, watched every game by myself, nobody around me, and but it was kind of cool to have that moment by myself. And even if I die, well, I will die. If they never win the cup again, is what I meant to say. If they never win the cup again before I die, I will still die happy as a fan, knowing that I have that memory as vivid as yesterday. Okay, that being said, this is just me being naive about sports in general, is when the players are on their ice or on the court or on the field, whatever it might be, and you hear this, what we've been hearing with the Habs, like, oh, they're not coach this, coach that. We hear all the time in chat groups and what have you, or forums. Why don't the players just play? Like, why is the coach even an issue? To me, they're like the conductor of a big symphony. Everyone knows how to play their instrument. Why do we need that guy up there doing this? And to me, sometimes the coach feels that way. It's like when Sidney Crosby hits the ice, does he care who's behind the bench, or is he just going to play the best game that he can play and score or not score? Why is the coaching from, like, at this point in their career, how much coaching did they need? I guess there's a lot of questions, but they're professional players. How much are they relying on what's been told them on the bench? Do they listen to the coach? Does the coach know more than they do on the ice? Help me out here. Help the audience understand. Pretend I know everything. Help the audience understand how important the coach really is, or do the players need one?
Yes. And, the coaching, it's such a complicated question, and I understand why you're asking it, because ultimately it is the players who control what happens on the ice.
That's what I mean, yeah.
They're in control of their own individual performance, but there are things that they're not in control of, whether it's how often they get on the ice, to what the system is that they play, to how the power play is structured, to who gets to play on the power play, to who gets to play on the penalty kill, to what the Canadiens or whatever team want to achieve when they're up a goal, down a goal. There's so many intricate elements of it. And hockey in general, or football or baseball or any other team sport, is by definition a team sport. Because of the fact that it's not tennis, and even in tennis they have coaches. That's true.
I know they have value because they're looking outside in. I understand that. I guess there's always a part of me when I've heard rumors like Price this is just internet talk, I understand, but people that are watching the game all the same, they have a voice just like anyone else. They're saying that Price wasn't playing as well as he could have because there was problems with the coaching. That it was here we go. I don't know if you can. Well, you can't answer this, but here's a theoretical. Can a player pull that kind of weight where they get a coach fired?
Yes.
Okay.
Coaches are much more replaceable than players.
It's fair.
Especially star players in certain cities, right? And especially the more money they make, the harder it is, if they're not performing well, to move them out of town. So,
again, I won't say any names. It's just a theoretical question.
it's not it's not, just to be clear about what I just said,
I understand.
This is not a player going to the general manager and saying, get rid of this guy. I'm the boss of this town. This is, if you can see that this player is not responding to the person who's in charge and you can't move away from that player, you have to do something about the other issue, right? So anyways, I don't want anybody to think that I'm specifically speaking about the Canadiens. I'm just talking in general.
Well, and I am too. And I'm saying theoretical, and you could say it's Price or not. I'm not asking you to do that. That's not. I wouldn't do that to your well, it's your job. I'm just saying you see it before. I've seen it before with other teams, even past Montreal players, even. So you could talk about past players where they kind of well, here you go, Patrick Waugh. When he left, when he's left in the net for that 11-1, did he really say, "I'm never going to play for this team again"? When he was, yeah. So that's what I mean.
He walked it back also the next day.
Oh, I forget.
They tried to walk it back with management, but management made up his mind, and they did it to prove a point to the rest of the team that no player was going to dictate how they run the organization. They made a mistake.
Yeah, well, congratulations to Colorado.
They made a mistake, and it was pretty obvious then, and it was pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious in hindsight. But that's sports, mistakes. So, you make them and you own them.
So Shea Weber was talking about there was some negativity. I mean, again, I don't know what you can or can't reveal because you know more than the average person, but it's not like Shea to say that. There was. Would he say that now? Do you think? Do you think it's better now in the room? Is there a better feeling in the room right now than a week ago?
I think it's unquestionable that they've kind of moved past that phase by now. Even though it's one loss and one win and 2 losses since Ducharme took over. When Shea said what he said about negativity and a heaviness in the room and this and that, he was talking about, like where's the positivity when you lose 6 of 8 games? And when the expectations are that you're going to be a good team and everyone thinks you're going to pull out of it and you keep losing. I mean, it's hard to be pretty positive about that situation. I think he was just being honest about it. Like but at the same time, it is the coaching staff and the leaders of the team, obviously, to address that and say, hey, we have a job to do. We need to do this with energy and excitement. And we shouldn't care that it's 6 games and 8 losses because that's in the past. Let's move forward. And that's obviously what they're trying to do right now. And what I think they're on their way to turning around.
I feel the same way. Because they came out flying, as we all know. They came out flying with the start of the season. And then they had lost that first game to Ottawa. And I feel like it was ever since that loss that things spiraled. Did something happen that game? Was it just the shock of losing to Ottawa that made them go, ooh, reel back? Or did teams figure them out?
No, it's, habits take time to build and they take time to deconstruct. And, even towards the end of the winning ways, towards the beginning of the season, there were some trends that started to emerge within their play that could cost them. The other factor is that with the hockey season, typically it goes in segments of 10 games. And the first 10 games, you're going to see a lot of scoring, a lot of penalties called, a lot of teams trying to get on the same page and figure out the systems, and not just figure out the systems, but execute them properly. And you see adjustments, and the adjustments come quick. And you asked me about the value of coaching beforehand. That's what it is.
Okay, great. Yeah.
It's them reacting to the trends in the game and seeing where the trouble areas are and figuring out how to deliver the message to get the players on the same page and execute what they're expected to execute. And so it's a confluence of things. I think when a team goes into a deep funk, it usually has to do with what they're doing and what their opponents are doing to them. So, and which is a hard thing for fans to understand most of the time, because when they watch their team play, they don't usually see another team on the ice. They don't usually, when I hear people talk about the Canadiens, it's either the Canadiens played great or the Canadiens played like shit, but it's rarely to do with what the opponents are doing to them and how they're playing. And it's comical to a degree when you learn how to really objectively look at what's happening. And I would say it's a minority of people that view it through the prism of there's not just one team playing. So,
are you allowed to say two questions? If you can't answer, I understand because I don't know what you're allowed to answer or not. Are the Habs making the playoffs, and how deep do you think they can go?
I think the Canadiens will make the playoffs, and I think if they play to their potential, they can go very deep.
I feel the same way. Honestly, I do feel the same way.
I also think that right now it's very hard for me to sit here and make the argument that holds water that they're going to go win the Stanley Cup from a team that's lost, 8 of the last 11 games. I think people are going to look at me and say, well, what the hell are you talking about? But I also know what the Canadiens should be with what they've built. I think they're much closer in terms of what their potential is to the team we saw at the beginning of the year that looked like world beaters versus the team that slunked through this little funk that they got into. And we're going to find out if this adversity was a good thing for them.
It's true. Yeah.
Like I've seen teams never face any adversity and they get swept in the first round of the playoffs. It happened to the Tampa Bay Lightning 2 years ago, and everyone was like, how did this happen? Well, if you don't lose 3 games in a row, you don't know, like all season over 82 games, you don't know how you're going to react when all of a sudden the shit hits the fan. So the Canadiens have gone through it. I think what exacerbates the issue is that last year they had these 2 8-game losing streaks and they never turned things around. And so it's easy to associate what's happened in this little stretch now with what happened last year. But this is a different team than that. They have an opportunity to prove that they're a different team, that they are what I believe is a much better team. And I'm interested as anybody to see how they come out of it, because if they come out of it with the way that I can kind of see it trending, and it might look, they just won a game against Ottawa, they might lose the next one against Winnipeg, and it might be a take a step back, take a step forward until they build that. But I do believe that they actually are going to build that, and we're going to see what happens as we go along. And if they do build that and they stay healthy, they're going to be a very dangerous team.
I like it. Well, let's end on that part regarding the Habs talk. And I mean, I know we could talk for 5 more hours, but since this is a Rocky podcast, and one of the things that you said to me on the phone when we talked, and it blew my mind, is one, you said you were not a fan of Rocky 5, which doesn't blow anyone's mind. But you said, no, that's fine. No, you're allowed to say whatever you want. Rocky Part 6 or Rocky Balboa, what's your issue with that one? What's going on here?
Love interest, little Marie. Like, what is this shit? Seriously?
Oh, come on. There's got to be more than that.
What is this movie? Honestly, it was so bad that like I don't think I've watched it more than once.
Okay. Well, how old were you when you where were you? What was your headspace when you saw it? Because you're one of the few people.
Headspace?
Well, because we can watch a film or a TV show or even listen to a song at the first time, and it rubbed us the wrong way. But if you revisit something after a while, have you thought about revisiting it? Maybe
I should. You know what? I think it was the anticipation of seeing another Rocky movie for the first time in a long time, and then just having it. What was the fight? It was like him versus Antonio Tarver or something, or
correct? Yeah.
The best Rocky movies to me have a certain template to them that you should not mess with. Even Creed 1 kind of screws with the template a little bit, and it bothers me. Like,
what's the template you're speaking of?
Because I thought Creed 2 was awesome.
I did too.
But Creed 1 was like, I need a good training scene. If I don't get the good training scenes, you're losing me. In the Rocky template. I don't, the idea of like training while Rocky's getting chemo is no. This is not. I want to see the Drago taking steroids and Rocky running up mountains. You lost me a little bit.
That's fair. No, we said the same thing on our show regarding the train sequence for Creed. That was one of our criticisms, quite frankly, was, we had a chemo montage. Sorry.
It's brutal. The worst training scene ever put in a Rocky movie. Why?
Yeah. Even, the Tommy Gunn montage was better than that. I agree.
You know what?
What's that?
I'll give 5 credit for that. The street fight between Rocky and Tommy is the one redeeming quality of Rocky Five.
Interesting. I'm the opposite. I'm the opposite.
You don't like the street fight?
It's not that I don't like. It's not that I don't like the street fight. I just wish they still went in the ring. I kind of wish they cut the street fight short, that it got broken up, and then they went to, we'll finish this in the ring type thing. And my dream ending would have been they finish in the ring and Rocky just destroys them in 2 rounds, kind of like what he did to Clubber. And then he takes the winnings and like puts it into the neighborhood, puts it into the school, gets that chain link fence fixed. He still remains as in the humble, but he takes the money and gives it to the city. Gives it to the schools. And I think that would have been an ultimate Rocky ending, that it wasn't about the money. Like he said, it was.
You just brought me into Rocky 3 for a second. And I got to say, like, I've never been able to figure out why Rocky goes through this incredible training regimen and changes his style and dominates round 1 and then comes out for round 2. Like the old Rocky, like you see him walk out of the corner with that gimpy lefty, like what is this? Why did he do this? Like, it's not like, and this is before he gets into the rope-a-dope strategy of like trying to tire a Clubber out. This is like he lost the plot completely. Why? Like, well, how did this happen? He was looking like a genius, and now he's lost it.
He just starts blocking with his head. We know he's got a stone for a head. That's how people say he doesn't block a shot. He is blocking. He's blocking every punch with his head. That's how he blocks. All right, so you okay, so fair enough for Rocky Balboa. I would recommend strongly watching Rocky Balboa again. Give it a new view.
It's got, maybe Rocky Balboa has the best script / writing in it, like story, like actual story elements compared, like, out of all of them, like after Rocky 1.
Oh, it's a strong story. It's I agree. The Tarver, talk about the template. The Tarver character, no fault of Antonio's. He's a boxer in real life. He's not an actor. We talked about on our show how physique in the Rocky universe kind of equals the menacing. Like you have Drago, Clubber Lang, Apollo, all these incredible, even Tommy Gunn, incredible physiques. Tommy was a big boy, he's strong and chiseled. And then you get Tarver, and he's just, even though he's a real boxer in real life and real people in real life don't look like the Rocky movies, we don't care. This is a movie where the characters in the Rocky films are dangerous looking, and the strong looking people.
Yeah, real people in real life don't take 6 haymakers in a row and survive.
Right.
They actually die.
Yeah, right. We know this.
The most realistic thing to ever happen in a Rocky movie was Apollo Creed dying, because
it's true.
If you got hit like that, even if you were the best boxer in the world and you were known for taking punches, like if you took the beating that Rocky takes in Rocky 4, you would die twice.
Well, that's why he had brain damage.
Yeah, that's why he had brain damage. He becomes meanwhile in Creed becomes a philosopher. Like he goes from punch drunk and like a blatant case of brain damage to he is suddenly Rocrates. Like he's like,
yeah, Creed is heavy, and it's actually something we actually didn't mention too much. I admit in Creed Rocky, the character is very wise man type sayings.
In the first Creed, like Rocky has way too much dialogue. Like he talks way too much and way too intelligibly for the Rocky that we know.
Except for the one part where he says, "What cloud?" That was the one Rocky moment. Yeah, that's actually a fair criticism. And I will say this: we kind of criticized the Creed film a little bit just because of those things, that it didn't feel much like a Rocky film, because it was written by Coogler, and so. But the dialogue though was written by Sly. The Rocky dialogue was him. He wrote all the Rocky dialogue, so he took everything that Coogler had written for him and changed it for himself. So. He just did have a lot of speaking parts, I agree. And so in Creed 2 was written by Sly. And that's why it felt more like a Rocky film for, I think, a lot of Rocky fans, because Sly kind of took creative control a little bit back to the story, brought in the Dragos, which makes it feel like an awesome film because you have Drago in it. And so now my question for you for Creed 3, you've heard about the Creed 3 is in production?
I have not heard anything. Tell me. I'm excited.
Well, you might not be. So Creed 3 is in production, sans Sly. He's not in it. He's not writing it. He's not in it at all. It's going to be directed by Michael B. Jordan, and it's about him. It's the Adonis Creed story without Sly in it at all.
What's the hook? Like, what's the story?
Nothing's been revealed yet. I forget the name of the writer. It's someone I've never heard of before, but I saw his credits. Like, seems like a decent writer. Like the films that I remember seeing that he wrote were like, okay, look, he's not a hack writer, but he's never done a Rocky film or Stallone film.
It works. I mean, Creed is not Rocky. It's not the same.
No, it's not.
Not talking the same brand.
It's not. It's just I love the Rocky character. That's all. I mean, I could watch Rocky in anything. Like as a character, I'd probably just watch it just because I'm interested to see what this guy's going to do. Rocky in space, sure. Let's see with a bunch of astronauts. Why not? But
so the question is Sly going to do another Rocky movie that is not of the Creed franchise? You
know how you're a Habs insider? I'm a little bit of a Rocky insider. So I do have a couple of sources, and I don't want to say who they are because I got to protect them. So there was some dissent in the Creed 2 filming where apparently Michael B. went behind Sly's back and talked to the director, Stephen Cable Jr., and said to him, look, this is not a Rocky film. This is a Creed film. And so there was already kind of a bit of animosity on the young Michael B's stardom. Is like the first one, like you just said, maybe Michael B. Jordan felt the same way. There's too much Sly in Creed Part 1. For Creed Part 2, can we have a little bit less of him and make this more about me and my story, my journey? Because now the Dragos have come in, so that probably upset him a little bit. And now we got a Drago storyline. We got Rocky still here with his past, and so now that
it's a movie, but that's really dramatic. Seriously.
Yeah. Well, Sly got wind of that, and there's a reason why Sly didn't do any of the Creed 2 press circuits or nothing. He never went out in the circuit. He never did any of that. He was too busy filming Rambo 5. He started filming Rambo 5 and promoting Rambo 5 on his Instagram and all these stuff before Creed 2 was even released. He stopped talking about Creed 2. Now you could just argue, oh, he's just focused on Rambo 5, but it's very telling that he didn't even say, hey, don't forget to go to the theaters and watch Creed 2. He was actually saying, here's another prop from the Rambo 5 film. Look, it's my knife.
Creed 2 was really good, though.
It was good.
There's like one thing in Creed 2 that like where Bianca like sings him into the ring, and like it's not even a song. It's just like this
horrible.
Like, I don't know what the hell that is. Where's the hook? Give me the chorus or something. What is this?
It's a horrible song. I don't know what do you know what kind of music that's called?
Chant? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. But to answer your question regarding Rocky 7, there was rumors. Again, you could almost argue this is why that Sly has said that he still sees another Rocky story where he'll take an immigrant under his arms.
I want a Polly sidebar.
Oh yeah.
I want Polly's story. Like,
I would.
That's one of the greatest characters to ever appear in a movie. Oh my god. Agreed.
Yeah, we love Paulie. We wanted a Mickey prequel, like Mickey when he was young in his boxing years. We also want a Rambo prequel, quite frankly, when he was a Vietnam vet.
A Mickey prequel would be genius.
Yeah,
that would be genius.
Here, let me set this up for you. So, tell me what you think of this. Is really quick. So, yeah, Mickey prequel for when he was training and when he, the night that he lost that fight because he didn't have no manager, all that stuff. And we actually see the fight where he gets his holes punched in his cheek from the glove. That'd be all great stuff. And then we see him build the gym. This is I think it'd be like a 6-parter. I don't think you have to do much more than 6-part Netflix series or something, or HBO Max. 6 parts. I think that's plenty of story for Mickey. And
that's new school.
What's that?
That's new school right there.
Oh, thank you. And then the ending sequence. This is how I envision the ending. So he gets his gym set up. It's like opening day. He opens it up. Nobody's come. Like he's lights are on. It's Mick's gym. It's empty. He's kind of wait for the public, and then he kind of sits down and be like, maybe what am I doing? Nobody's going to come to this gym. He's sitting there kind of this, and you hear the bell jingle or something, right? And you see it over the shoulder, of course, the silhouette. And you see the hat. Hey, yo, you open? And that's it. And Mick goes like, yeah. And that's it. It ends with Rocky coming to the gym. He's like the first customer. 6 years of sticking to, but that'd be year one of those 6 years that he comes into the gym. It's just over the shoulder. Of course, another actor, but you hear Sly's voice doing, "No, you open." How's that for an ending to that series?
Why don't you should write this?
I don't know how to write. I don't
just
know.
give it away. Write it.
Oh,
Like a
What?
screenplay class. Done deal.
All right. Well, you're. I know you're always. We had a good phone call conversation about stuff. I love your gumption. That's the word. I love it. So, Eric, we're at the hour mark, which is about how long we do for interviews. And before we close, is there anything you want to say to the Habs land, Rocky land, or Fish land before we before we
Yeah,
close?
no, I just want to say that Rocky 4 is, it's the best one. And it is the first one that I watched.
Sure.
It's just got all the Rocky isms that we need. Like, except for how civilized he is in it. It's just bizarre how civilized. Like, he goes from Rocky 2 to not being able to drive a car, and like he's just totally brain dead, to he's like saying profound things to Apollo, like, you ever think it's like you versus you? Like, you're just like, whoa, like,
Because
that's so deep.
money equals intelligence. You know this.
You're so deep, Rocky. Like, and then the Lamborghini scene is
beautiful.
I mean, and the imagery of Rocky picturing himself going down, and like, it's a work of art. And the fact that it has James Brown in it, in one of the greatest scenes like ever in a movie, and just all of it, it's just so great.
Yeah, it's fun. Now, what do you think of the director's cut that's being made?
I'm in. I've only seen the movie 8,000 times, so I'll watch it again.
Did you hear that Sly's taking out the robot though?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, he's taking out the robot. He's trying to make it more. The criticisms that people do have with Rocky 4, if there are any, like, you're right, it's fun. It's the one that everyone does. It's a popcorn film through and through. It's just nonstop, quick and dirty, lots of fun. Music, montages, train sequences. It's so much fun.
Conti's soundtrack also is like, it's amazing.
Well, no, Vince DiCola does that one for part 4.
I just mean the
overall, sorry.
I don't even know the word I'm looking for here.
Overall theme?
Yeah, the overarching musical theme of the movie, which is Bill Conti, right?
Oh, for part 4, it's Vince DiCola. He's the one that does the techno.
I should have meant the series. Forget about the robot for a second.
Okay.
And Rocky 4. I just mean like the Rocky theme.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's beautiful. I actually interviewed Bill Conti.
It's a masterpiece, really?
Yeah, check it out. Anyone listening who hasn't heard it, check out my interview with Bill Conti and Vince DiCola, who did part 4. I interviewed him. He's a great guy, very nice, very generous with his time. And it was actually probably the highlight of my podcast.
Did he bust out the keys and just give you a rendition?
Everything. He did a whole symphony for me. It was amazing. No,
really?
No. He talked to me. I would recommend listening to it. I actually asked him I actually threw him a couple hardballs, believe it or not, and he was very gracious with his answers. But I won't spoil it. But he's a very, very nice man. Anything you want to say to Habs land before we close?
Nah, they hear enough from me. It's
okay, roger that. Where can people find you?
They can find me at sportsnet.ca, and on Twitter at Eric Engels, and on Instagram, baby. I need to get that Instagram following going. SN Eric Engels.
Well, the secret Instagram, unfortunately, is beautiful girls, and you or I not those things. So,
nope.
Yeah, I know. How did you? May I ask, the blue check mark? How did you get that? Like, what do you have to do to get the blue check mark? Because I'm Ryan Balkan. Why don't I have a blue check mark?
Has anybody ever tried to make an impersonation account of you?
Well, there's an old saying, I'm not worried about identity theft because nobody wants to be me. Yeah.
You might have a hard time getting that blue check mark.
So do you have to be... So I'm
not verified on Instagram, by the way.
But you're verified on Twitter. But so, like, do I have to be, quote unquote, somebody to be verified, or can anyone apply for it?
You have to have a following, and you have to be a journalist or a public figure or something like that. And it's quite... I don't think you can apply for. I didn't apply for it. I don't think you can apply for it. I think it's very. They have their own reasons for verification that I've never quite understood, and I've been verified. I think I joined Twitter in 2008, and I've been verified since about 2010. I have a large following there. It's probably part of it, but I don't know. There's people that have bigger followings even than me that aren't verified. So I have no idea what goes into it. So
Okay. Well, I was just curious. I always find it interesting. I've only interviewed a couple people with the blue check mark, but you're the first one that kind of bugged about it. So appreciate your.
cool.
All right. Well, Eric, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thanks for reaching out to me. This was you reaching out to me, and I was kind of flattered by that you would do that.
I was just blown away by all the coincidences. So
Habs fan, Rocky
That's the rule
fan,
now.
reacting to fish on my YouTube channel. I mean, what else could you ask for? So, all right, Eric, thank you so much for coming on. Don't hang up when I stop recording. Thank you so much, and I hope we get to talk again.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
All right, we've stopped recording. Thanks, brother. I really appreciate that.
It was fun.